Welcome to the Great Debaters Contest. I am your host, Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyambok.
And as we welcome you to the inter-regional debates, today we are wondering if launching a military coup against a democratically elected country is justified, given that it seems to be happening in so many countries like Egypt and Tunisia.
Proposing this motion, we have Loreto Limuru, who have told their opponents that red says it all. As for the opposers, Kagumo High School, they have told their opponents that when you see fire, there has been smoke.
The motion this week is, launching a military coup against democratic governments can be justified. Proposing the motion, Loreto Limuru. Opposing the motion, Kagumo High School.
Each contestant has 3 minutes to make their submissions. The audience also gets a chance to put their questions to each team. Each side will have an additional 1 minute to make a final statement. The judge's decision is final. The winning school will get an ICT chill-out zone with the widescreen TV, computers, webcams, and internet connection. The teacher from the winning school gets 100,000 shillings courtesy of Chase Bank. The winning students each get a tablet courtesy of Safaricom, a gift hamper from Unilever, and a gift hamper from mimi.co.ke. And together they all win the title, The Great Debaters. May the best school win.
Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Greetings, Kimani Ann, Loreto High School, Limuru. Launching a military coup against a democratic government can be justified. What is a military coup? A military coup is a sudden and sometimes violent attempt by the military to overthrow a government. What is a democratic government? It is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. To justify something is to give a good reason as to why you are doing something. An old wise saying, when a man is drowning, he holds on to a straw. Now, I want you to picture this situation. You are drowning in a sea. You cannot swim. The only thing available is a straw. What do? You hold on to the straw. It might be fragile, but it is your only ray of hope. Now, the democratic state, it's you who is drowning. Now, the fact that you cannot be able to swim, that's your government. It's failing you. And the hope is the straw, which is the military coup. How can a military coup be justified? It is when it is staged so that it can restore peace in a country. Democracy has failed us in restoring peace and enhancing peace during and after elections. In Thailand the other day, during 2014 general elections, there was a war, and the war led to the death of 10 people, and 600 people were left injured. The military had to step in order to restore peace. Now, a coup can also be used to remove an undemocratic state, an undemocratic government from power. From 1991 to 2006, there have been a series of 31 coups in Africa. Now, these coups have been used to remove them undemocratic governments. They've been used so that to bring back democracy, to restore democracy, and also to reform the political system of the states. A democratic government, yes, you did elect your leader, we understand that. But using Francis Imbuga's book, Betrayal in the City, one of the characters says, like animals we walk, but inside a cage. Is that what you want? Yes, I voted for my leader. He is bad, he is failing me. Or now what do? I have to sit back and wait for the next elections. No, you are not born a slave. You are born a free man. And that is the only way we need a military coup in order to restore that country, to remove this leader who is failing you. A democratic government may also require a coup to enhance relations. In 1965, there was war in Congo. And this war, a coup had to step in. Mobutu Sese Seko had to carry out a coup. He had to stage a coup in order to restore the government, in order to restore peace in Congo. A democratic coup can also be staged in order to enhance security of a country. Now, these military men, they are trained to protect us. They are trained to take care of their citizens. They are ready to die for us. Why don't you give them a chance to reform our government? Like a pencil, that's a democratic coup. It has to be sharpened in order to write well. And when it makes a mistake, it is not cancelled like a biro. It is rubbed off. A military coup can be justified. Thank you.
Opening statement now from the opposing team. You have 3 minutes.
The beauty of a rubber is in its ability to be stretched. In political engineering, scholars put it that the beauty of a democracy is in the ability of the government to bestow power upon its citizens. My name is Samson Karaoke, a young Democrat from Kagumo High School, and I firmly oppose the motion that goes launching a military coup against a democratic government can be justified. Now, why? Why will it put it this way? I am firmly in opposition to this motion because it is not the people's will. We have to acknowledge that for there to be a government, for a government to be effective, it has to be the will of the people. It has to be the will of the citizens. Now, military governments are practically imposing rule. They are imposing authority upon citizens, and therefore they are not the kind of effective government. Let us look at an example like Thailand. In Thailand, we have had 12 coups in 19 years. That is, what is that telling us? That is to tell us that a 12-year-old boy or a 12-year-old girl in that country has seen 12 different military governments, war every now and then. Is that the type of government we need? Is that the kind of life that we need? Gunfire each and every moment. And then so that we can justify and say that military coups are effective. They are not effective in any way. Look at Africa. We have 33 countries that have experienced 85 coups. Is that really realistic? Is that where we want to head? Is that the direction we are heading? Let us ask ourselves that. Military coups cause loss of lives. We look at a country like Egypt. There has been military coups every now and then. We have an example of President Mohamed Morsi. He had been overthrown by Sisi. Why? What has this caused? It has caused about 3,200 deaths, of which is not what we are looking at. That is not where we are going. People dying every now and then. That is not what we are looking for. That is not what we need. Intellectual endowment is one important factor that we are to look for in a government. Intellectual endowment is what will enable a government to be able to rule its people. Now, the military is mainly specialized for battle. It is specialized for combat and not for governorship. We want a government that can be able to rule its people in a morally upright manner. We have, for example, Idi Amin Dada. What does his name mean? He is a man of sisters. He is a man of women. What does that instill upon people? What does that show? It does not make sense at all. And therefore, how would you respect such a government? How would you be able to follow such a government? It is not realistic at all. Economic sanctions happen in such countries. If the economy declines in countries where there have been military coups, how will a country develop when all energy is directed to war and killing? And therefore, I stand firm and still say that military coups should not at all be entertained. Thank you.
We'll now get cross-examinations from the proposers. You have 3 minutes.
Nyaga Angela, Loreto High School, Limuru. My opponent has tried to bring out the fact that if a military coup is staged, there will be war everywhere. But my question is this: don't we have war right now? Our country, Kenya, as a democratic republic, don't we experience war every now and then? Don't we experience terrorist attacks? Taking an example of the 2007 post-election violence, wasn't that war? We have no assurance. We have to take a risk. Syria, 1949. A coup was staged to boost the economy of the country. So yes, a military coup can be used to boost the economy of a country. A coup is a necessary evil. A technocratic government is needed to reduce the level of corruption in a country. Take the example of Afghanistan, Libya, and Iraq. They have been ranked position 175, 171, and 172 on the Corruption Perceptions Index. Simply put, if the political class of these countries has failed to lessen the level of corruption in the countries, let someone else step in. Let the military step in. I'll give you words from a famous musician, well known for his high level of wisdom, Asher Raymond. He's a man of a very high level of wisdom. He once sang that you can't keep on doing the same old things and still expect change. Is that a loser's game, or is that simply stupidity? We cannot keep on trusting the same old government to bring us change. We cannot imagine that one day they will wake up with reformed principles on lessening the level of corruption in the country. We have to let the military step in. We need change. Yes, a leopard cannot change its spots, but if it cannot change its spots, let us skin the leopard. Let us skin the government. Let someone else step in. In Bangladesh, there were two main political parties, the Awami League and the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. And what is most amazing is that the leaders of these two parties refused to talk to each other. Imagine that. Imagine one morning waking up and His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta and the Deputy President, Honorable William Ruto, don't talk to each other. Leaders who have been alleged to even decide on wearing the same tie on an occasion. Imagine if they did not talk to each other. That is the ideal foundation of a toppling government. We need to let the military step in such an occasion. A coup is a necessary evil. Thank you.
Opposers, you have 3 minutes to give a rebuttal.
Minority have their say, but majority have their way. Opposing this motion is John Wangia from Kagumo High School. First of all, you talked of the Royalist Party and the Bangladesh Nationalists refusing to talk to each other. Do you know why? This is because the Royalist Party had hired the military that came in to have a coup so that they could be able to disrupt the elections where they could win. Although it's an allegation, there's some sense of truth in it. So let us stop measuring on the minor. Stop telling us that they do not talk to each other, but look at the reason. The motion here is based on democratic government being faced with a military coup. But for a country that has got wise people, a military coup can only come in when the government has turned to be an autocratic one. What do I mean to be an autocratic? It has ceased being democratic and is in turn turning dictatorial. There are other ways, apart from using the military coup, in a democratic government to stop it. For example, I can use the courts. I can bring in the vote of no confidence. For God's sake, let us just stop seeing an easy way out. Let us see a sensible way out of our problems. You talked of that a drowning man will clutch at a straw. Have you ever been told that he who hesitates is lost? A person who is hesitating that he cannot swim is lost and will try to clutch at the straw. So clutching at the straw, which is using of a military coup, is an act of hesitation. And when you hesitate, you are lost. And when you are lost, you face the consequences. And once you face the consequences, you understand what goes on. You understand that the economy is going to go down. You've also talked of wars in Kenya. As far as I know, there hasn't been any successful military coup in the country since independence. Do you know the difference between the attempt by a military coup to overthrow the government and the real military coup? Do you understand that? There was an attempt to overthrow the government in the 1982 military coup. But there's the difference between that and the real military coup having succeeded. What is the interrelation between the terrorism attacks you're talking of and the coups? What is the interrelation between the post-election violence and the coups? Food for thought. So I'll just urge you to leave your seat and come to us so that we can oppose this motion and ban military coups. Thank you.
To the questions. 2 for the proposers.
Hi, I'm Alan Mbuto. I'm from Strathmore School. I have a question for the proposers. The second proposer mentioned that Kenya is facing a lot of insecurity issues and a lot of problems from terrorists. So are you suggesting that staging a coup against our government is going to help stop some of these problems? Thank you.
I'm Mohamed Abdullahi from Light Academy. Due to increased rates of corruption in countries she mentioned, Afghanistan, we can believe in the military to bring a change, to reduce the corruption levels in our continent, in our countries rather. In Africa, Nigeria, a country known for its coups since independence, is ranked one of the highest countries in corruption. So you still believe that their militaries are doing something to reduce the corruption?
I'm Ahmed Mohammed from Light Academy. The second opposer mentioned methods of removing rather corrupt politicians or corrupt leaders from power without using coups. He mentioned courts. I thought the last time I checked, judiciary was part of the government. Vote of no confidence, I think that was usually passed by the parliament, which also another arm of the government. So how do you want to pass vote of no confidence and yet you're using the members of the parliament who are part of the government, or you want to use judges who are also part of the government?
My name is Valiant Waki from Strathmore School, and I have a question for the opposers. What if we had a government where the leader was democratically elected, but they became a dictator during their term and their government was causing as much damage in terms of lives as a military government would? Wouldn't a military coup be justified in that case? I mean, why would you have to wait for the next election for you to replace the government? Just have a military coup, don't you think?
May we have the third speaker from the proposing side?
Jane Pauline Pamba, Loreto High School, Limuru. I'll begin with Alan's question. He asked whether staging a coup against our government will help us. I'd like you to look at a situation where the government has brought the economy so low that the people's living standards have gone so high, some of them can't even afford to pay for a simple meal. Staging a coup against an unsatisfactory government, that would help a country, because if we lower the economy and not consider every one of us as citizens of the country, then where are we leaving each other? We need to move as one towards a good economy, because we are one. We are all Kenyans. Being united in refusing something, an unsatisfactory government, it would help us. Launching a military coup, if our government did not satisfy our needs and our demands according to how we gave them during the elections, then staging a military coup would help us, because we would be getting what we asked for. There is no need to tiptoe through life only to arrive safely at death. Now, the second question was, how does corruption help, or how does a military coup help reduce corruption? In countries like Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Kenya, there has been either an attempted coup or a successful coup. And they have been trying to reduce the problems that have been going on in those countries. Nigeria, when they had their coup, they stopped looking out for their country. They have very good oil companies, but when they were staging their coup, they wanted to make it better. There was so much high corruption that they couldn't even make profits. Think of the young man who wanted to be wise, went to an old wise man, told him, I want to be wise. And the wise man told him to take a walk with him, took him to the edge of the river, told him to bend. Then he pushed his head into the water, and the man struggled because he wanted to leave. And then he got out and he was angry and he was asking the old man, why did you want to kill me? And the old man told him, you wanted to be wise. If you want to be wise, then you have to struggle. If we want what is good for us, we have to take the risk. Thank you.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond to the audience.
As said earlier, democracy is a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and not for some people, by some people, for the same some people. I'm Ken Edwahome from Kagumo High, a young but rather an old Democrat. With me, I have the first and second, and I have the first question and answer respectively. What our second opposer said is that we have better methods to solve this kind of coup of democratic countries which get to autocratic. And he said we have an established constitution which caters for that. He talked of elections. Elections is one of the universal suffrage that all people, all humankind enjoy globally. That is one of way of restoring back democracy. We also have got impeachment, or rather what we refer to as a vote of no confidence. He also referred to as the judicial system. A case in point, in our last general elections, not everybody was satisfied. And what did they do? They did a very wise thing, went to the judicial system, and their justice was offered where the majority had their view. What if they decided to stage a coup? What do you think could have happened to our country? Allow me to back what my fellow opposers have talked about. It makes no sense for a military coup to be launched against a democratic country simply because that will be insulting our own intelligence. Of which sense does it make? There is no definition in the Constitution which states that there is a good and a bad democracy. We all have got one democracy. Therefore, the military is saying that they are overthrowing the government to reinstate a democratic government makes no sense. And to my other point, we all know that our military are ranked according to their prowessness in the battlefield. They are not ranked in terms of their leadership. They are not. So what we learn from this, they are meant to go to battle, to settle all things, but not to come and govern us. As I conclude, I remember our hosts have said that when we see red, we see danger. And in fact, that is true. But let me remind you something. In Thailand, when they had their first coup, there were people referred to as the red shirts. What did that mean? It meant these were the people who are against a coup by the military. They were fully in red, and they were against the military. So why don't you cross over and come to our sides and join us so that we can move in the same wagon of coming against overruling of the government by the military. Thank you.
We'll now hear closing statements from both teams. We begin with the proposers. You have 1 minute.
It's never nice to make a mistake. And what is worse is not being given the opportunity to rectify your mistake. If a leader goes against the rule of law, then that is not really democracy. We are not saying that coups should be staged every other single day, but we are giving you an opportunity to rectify your mistake if your leader is not matching up to the standards. Risk takers are change makers. Thank you.
Opposers will hear your closing statements. You have a minute.
And earlier said that the minority have their say and the majority have their way. You may understand that if a coup takes place right now, not all the world is going to support it. And again, the meaning of the word coup is something that is illegal and it is not needed by the people. So it is not supported by all the people. And the few who do it by force. So there are much better ways of negotiation or of doing away with that government, if it is indeed democratic, as you say, that is bringing us problems, other than using military coups. Why just use bloodshed? Yet you can use peaceful negotiations, you can go to court and do all that, and all the government will come back to order. So, just stop thinking of ways of shedding blood. Stop thinking of using force. In the name of that, we cannot solve that way. We need to do it this way. That's a step to stagnation. And a step to stagnation of the economy of a certain country until have its toll. So cross over and join us in opposing military coups so we can be able to maintain peace in our countries. Thank you.
Loreto, Anne, I feel like a student sitting or being taught by a very informed teacher when you start debating. It's very interesting the way you communicate your ideas. I didn't want you to stop because of the analogies, because of you are very concise and your sentences well constructed. I love the way you introduced your team. Nyaga, debate focuses on the economy and the power of language, and I think it came out very well from you. I wanted to say you're growing, but I think I can say you've grown. We've seen you here for quite some time, and you're quite a good debater. A coup is a necessary evil. I think I love it. It's very concise, and it speaks everything, an interesting paradox. A leopard can't change its skin, so what do? We kill it. Another very concise statement that says a lot. You're sharper than a razor. I liked your presentation, let me say that. Pamba, good. You're good. Or rather, let me say fairly good. Let me not just say good. Because I think that you can work on the way you deliver your argument. At some point you're high, at some point you're low, at some point you come out quite combative, which is good. At some other time you go it's quite a monotone. So you can always work on your delivery. It is not a bad way of presentation. Possibly that is your style of presentation. But what I'm saying is compared to other group members or team members, you can always do something to improve. Great debate.
To Kagumo High, a very impressive team of young men. I'm actually getting convinced that men also make great debaters. I mean, listening to the three of you was quite impressive. Samson, I loved your non-verbal. I mean, you're the first speaker of the team. You have a very important submission to make. So that was very, very good. Very powerful speaker as well. I think for me, the concern is when you mentioned Idi Amin and you asked, what does his name mean? It's not what his name means, but when you hear that name, I think that's what you wanted to ask. When you hear that name, what do you associate him with? Okay, so good job. John, a great speaker. The sky is the limit for you. I'm watching this space 10 years down the line, and I know you'll be a great, great leader for this country. Kenneth, but one thing, John, when you're debating, I know you were responding to some of their submissions, but also remember that there's an audience. I was feeling ignored. It's like you were looking at the ladies too much. Kenneth Wahome, again, good speaker. Very great. I mean, a great job. Work on your pronunciation and your stage fright. At some point, I could tell you were really sweating it out. But with time, you'll get there. Good job.
Loreto, Kimani Ann, you're very confident. You command the presence when you come on stage. You have good mastery of language. You mastered your topic very well as well. Angela, good mastery of language, good mastery of topic. You're lovely. You're what I would call a debater. Good cross-examination as well. You understand your role and you maintain your calm and you use variety of expressions as you're speaking. Jane, I will just comment on momentum. When the first speaker comes on board and the second speaker comes with the same pace, there's a momentum they have already set. And so when you come, you can be calm and still deliver in your own unique way. But there's that particular momentum we expect. Don't bring it down so that the team work is expressed out and is seen out. Kagumo, Samson, very confident. Good start. You connect well with the audience as well as you're submitting your submissions. Good use of time as well. John, one word, very good. You've not disappointed. A little bit of work in your mastery of language and the sky is your limit. That was good. Kenneth, one word as well, good. All the best to the two teams.
The judges saw it fit to award Loreto Limuru High School, that is, 70.7%. Give them a round of applause. And our winners, Kagumo High School, have 71.3%. Please give them a round of applause.
Bravo to both the ladies and the gentlemen. They've done a good job. Some of the highest scores we've seen so far. This is the level of debate we want. As we go forward, we hope that they will see both teams in the future. From us here at the Great Debaters Contest, it's goodbye till next time. I am Mariam Bishar.
I am Austin Yumbok. Thank you for watching.
The winning school will get an ICT chill-out zone with the widescreen TV, computers, webcams, and internet connection. The teacher from the winning school gets 100,000 shillings courtesy of Chase Bank. The winning students each get a tablet courtesy of Safaricom, a gift hamper from Unilever, and a gift hamper from mimi.co.ke. And together, they all win the title, The Great Debaters. May the best school win.